Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final speaker of this wonderful 3-day event. We hope that you have learned and gained as much as we have. Introduce you to Todd Brinkman. The reason why we're ending with Todd is because I was listening into Todd's session actually yesterday, and I was very touched. I was very moved by his mission, by his ministry. It is a fantastic thing that he's trying to put together. I definitely wanted to leave you guys on this incredibly positive and hopeful note. Todd's mission, I won't get too much into it because the way he explains it is like no other. He's incredibly passionate about this project, and I definitely wanted to make sure to put him because I want this talk to leave a lasting impression on all of you. His mission and his ministry is incredibly important, and it is pretty much where we're all headed. So, Tom, you want to give us a couple thoughts?
Yeah, just, Todd is from the place where I live now, Minneapolis, and he moved to central Minnesota. So were you down around Mankato or someplace? Or
no, up in St. Cloud.
Oh, right St. Cloud. Okay. Yeah, Granite City.
Yeah.
So, and do you know Mystery Science Theater 3000?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow, that brings me back. Wow.
I'm trying to introduce Ruby to it. But anyway, I'm not going to detract. You moved in 2016, following 20 years in traditional and digital marketing. You moved to Southern California to start a new career with a content management systems. And now you've branched out even further into virtual prayer capabilities and others. And having just lost parents last year, it would have been really cool for them. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you so much, Tom and Ruby. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here today. What an amazing event. Just a lot of things going on. So many amazing speakers, and it's just a blessing to be here today, speaking to all of you. And I'm just super excited to really start with you on a conversation today about really where our world is at. And I started this out in 2016. I was fortunate enough to move from Minnesota to sunny San Diego just because I was in a little bit of a rut. Could have been the weather, maybe just a little bit, but moved out here. And be careful what you ask for. I was actually in a period of time where I wanted like a bigger calling, something I could do with my life and just make a bigger impact than just selling stuff. And I got it. I found it. And it was just a simple idea of putting a headset on a hospice patient back in Minnesota who's passing away, and some amazing little hero can put a headset on, and why can't he go surfing with the like Oceanside Surf Club, for example, here in Oceanside, California. And those just initial things of like, why can't we use these new technologies for good? And it's been just a crazy ride the last 4.5 years of just getting everything ready, writing all these books, creating all these courses, and just creating a huge network of people. So in the next few minutes, I hope I can offer you just, a lot of hope. And even if it's virtual reality is not your thing, it's just something, get your calling, get your passion, and don't quit. I think that's a big thing, when we all have our trauma and our stuff and we quit. But for me, in this example, I just found my calling, and it really wasn't about me. Callings, you don't find callings, they kind of call you, which I found out. But the idea when you get your calling, you really can do some just amazing things. It's amazing what one person can do in the world. And I'm just humbled and honored to be talking to you today. But really, I moved out here in 2016. I got this idea, really just simple vision of putting a headset on a hospital patient where they can pray from their own church right before cancer treatment. And if we can do that in business and other things, why can't we do that for good and just amazing things? So it really brought me on this huge journey of where we're at now. And to really start, it's important for all of us to really know, especially for me with a tech background, is the world is actually, it's changing. Technically, it's already changed. And why we don't talk about it as a society, I don't know. I think we're just very scared of change and all of that. So in the next 30, 45 minutes, we're going to really kind of demystify some of our new tools. This isn't some big mystical dragon that's going to come and take over the world like the Terminator movies. We can actually use these tools for good. And it's up to us. And my hope and my prayer is we don't let 100 people run the world the next 100 years. My goal today is just to get you in the conversation, get you to learn, maybe write a book and do some good with our new tools for my new era. But they call it the fourth industrial revolution. And actually, from the books I read, it's probably some of the most tectonic technological changes maybe in 400 or 500 years. Some people say longer, but I would certainly say that, since I'm trying to sell books, I would say that we are moving into the most technologically disruptive time in human history. And you can call it a pandemic or whatever you want to call it, not right or left. It's just the idea of 20, 30, 40 years of all this technology not really coming into the world is all coming in at the same time. And it's all entering your world right now. So if you think the pandemic brought a lot of change to the world and a lot of disruption and pain, innovation is certainly much bigger than the pandemic. It's going to affect everybody. And especially when you study the first industrial age and how that affected things in the 1700s, how it drove the French Revolution, drove the American Revolution, and it drove people off the farms into cities, and it just caused a lot of pain. Looking back then, even people that lived on islands that weren't even involved in any of it, they interviewed them and they knew in their heart that the world was going through something big. They just didn't know what it was. And I think we all are going through that right now. So it's really up to us to really understand this thing called our new era. But I like the idea of calling it really just an era of moving humanity forward. And it's really up to us how we use it. And for me, as an entrepreneur, now an author, like who knew I would write a book? Crazy. But the idea that we can use these tools for good or bad. We can talk about what's bad in another conversation. But sometimes I wonder, like, is it good for a 12-year-old kid to watch a virtual reality video game that's really violent? A lot of weapons in it, and they're hurting other people, and it just can go into their mind as trauma. And we're just bulldozing into this world. And, for me, a lot of Christian leaders and even other amazing local leaders, they're like, we didn't do that in 1955, or Todd, that doesn't fit into my 1975 business plan. And so they're just not in the conversation. So I really wanted to start a company of really getting people in the conversation. So in my workshops, I call it a red pill moment. So in the next few minutes, I hope that you have that. A lot of times you have to see it for the first time. But when you actually take the red pill, like the Matrix, you open your eyes up and you see that, holy cow, the world has really changed. And that's the moment when a lot of people cry because they don't know why they're not in the conversation. And they wonder why their education failed them. And they wonder why, wow, I don't know any of this stuff. And it's a little bit overwhelming. So we are moving into a new era called the Fourth Industrial Revolution that was created by Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. And really what that means to you is we have a lot of new tools. So this isn't some mystical dragon or some crazy thing out there. It's just things that have been bundling up for 20 years or even longer. Now they're just entering the world at the same time. So one of them certainly is artificial intelligence, AI. There's different types of AI. And if you didn't know that, it's already in your world. If you didn't know that, it's going to be incredibly disruptive to customer service jobs, attorneys, accountants, some of the software that's coming out with algorithms for accounting. It's going to fundamentally change the accounting world. And it's sad to me, like how many accountants don't know that? Like, how do you not know that? It's still baffling to me. So other tools would certainly be robotics. I'm going to be talking to you a lot about senior homes and senior living homes and hospitals. But you're going to see over the next few months, especially this summer, robots actually entering hospitals, senior living homes as personal assistants. So when you go to a resort in Europe, hopefully we all can do that one day soon, you're going to be greeted by a robot. And they're going to be your personal assistant, and they can even get drinks for you and bring your food back or answer questions for you as you navigate through this place in another spot where you don't know their language, but this assistant can translate for you. And it's just fascinating that these things are here now, and it's going to disrupt a lot of things. And there's a lot of other things we're going to talk about now is the different realities. There's 5 different new types of realities, and it's fun. We have a real reality, which is our real reality, which is you and me talking, and we don't have any other devices. And just so you know, Zoom and these meetings are not part of the new stuff. Zoom is just old technology. But we have these new tools like virtual reality, augmented reality, things like mixed realities, extended realities. I love the idea of remote realities. So a lot of these robots, even in the healthcare industry, people will put a headset on, put their hands into this machine virtually and actually control a robot in another country. That's going to be a big thing in healthcare coming up. So it's amazing. Doctors don't have to physically be in a room to actually work with a patient. So all these new technologies are here now. And the reason I picked virtual reality as we move into virtual reality is the fact that we can really do amazing good things with this. And for me, it's sad. All my mentors are like, stop saying that. But being an author now, I wrote 3 books last year in this space, and don't do that. That was way too many books, but I said a lot in my mind, and it was fun to actually express it in writing. But the idea of creating a virtual reality prayer, for me, if you type in Google like VR prayers, you're going to see all my books and my beginning work. And for me, it's sad. We have all these beautiful new tools available, and there's one person writing a book on it. And it's sad. So they all want to build violent video games and horror movies and other types of things. And it's just sad for me. Like, why can't we use these tools for good and to really help humanity move forward? And so it's really been a challenge for me as, I talk to Christian leaders and they give you the blank looks like, we didn't do that in 1950, Todd. And it's like, well, we can. And it's just been a challenge. And for me, COVID was a hard time for me, but it was also a blessing because all of a sudden they closed the church. Like, who would have thought that like 2 years ago? And it's fun for me giving speeches on all of the things that are coming, interesting, and even having them recorded and having all of the things like the pandemic happen, because they always happen before we move into a new big thing. Always happens. I just hope we don't go into wars and things like that and the big famines. But the idea that we're moving into something new, and it's up to us how we use these new tools. We can use these tools for good, like virtual reality. And that's what I really wanted to do with my faith life, is we can use prayers in a new way with new tools that really help us connect in ways that we didn't have available before. And what I mean is, like, we can actually put headsets on and actually connect in ways that really kind of bridge this thing called space and time, which is fascinating to me. But the idea that we can really connect in ways that we didn't have available. And all of this only happened because of the pandemic. It's interesting. So for me, God's timing makes sense, which isn't always my timing. I wanted to launch this a long time ago. But the idea now that the world closed the church's doors, but the good news, in God's perfect timing, he's creating all these new realities where we can actually really unleash our ability, like, what is the front door of a church? And virtual reality will be a big part of that. And I don't think, as a person writing this book, one of the first voices in the world expressing this, is I really don't think we should ever replace our idea of like the real church, like a real hug or a real look in the eye from someone who cares about us. I hope we never move past that. But my mission is we can use these new tools to really work into the ministry space. And this was my 3rd book, Virtual Reality for Ministry, is that we can use these new tools to really unleash our local ministry's ability to help other people feel loved and connected and even empowered. And we learn how that feels if we don't have those things in COVID. If a senior is trapped in their room, which we won't even do to foreign prisoners of a war, and keeping seniors in their rooms trapped in there, and they can't even go to the dining hall. We won't even do that to prisoners of war in a war. So we violated the Geneva Convention in our, keeping everybody in one spot and not moving. So it's amazing how all these new tools like virtual reality never came into the world until they closed the front door of a church. And now they went to Zoom and they realized their church went from 400 people to 2,000 people. And they went, wow, I don't know. Why didn't we do this before? A lot of people are scared of it. They want to turn Zoom off and go back to their 300-400 people in their real reality church. But it's amazing. A lot of people want to connect in these new ways, and it's exciting for us to be able to do that. So really what a virtual reality ministry is nothing more than a church performing what they would normally do in the real world. But now we have new tools that we can help others feel connected. So for example, a big one for me is a hospital ministry. A VR ministry can just basically be another tool for a hospital ministry, where now they can buy headsets or fundraise or whatever. And we can create these safe spaces in a hospital where if a doctor says they're okay and they're not drugged up and it's okay, and they're physically and emotionally okay, they can put on a headset and actually go somewhere. And it's fun for me now as we kind of jump in to some of the granular work. But when a ministry actually brings a headset into a safe place in like a hospital, for example, we can actually bring a patient to really a lot of different places. And this is all in the books, but we really can do 3 big things. The first one is a virtual reality prayer, which we'll talk about in a second. The second one is a virtual reality station that we can create. And the third type is actually the real virtual reality, where we can actually have a virtual space where we can pray together and do Bible studies, even immersive Bible stories. So we have all these new tools available. So real quickly, when you bring in a headset, you can put a headset safely on a patient and they can go to a lot of amazing destinations. And in the books, I cover the 6 steps. The first step is really the recipients. And this is the person who puts on the headset. So for example, Joan's in the hospital room, or maybe she's in hospice. She puts on a headset and then she goes and realizes, she looks around and goes, I'm at my brother's home and they're praying for me at their kitchen table. So their physical body is in the hospital room, but their mind and their heart and even their soul, they're going to feel like they're at their brother's kitchen table who lives a whole country away. And they're going to pray for them. And just an amazing recorded experience would make the most sense. But if you can do it, you can do it live. And so we can have like this amazing experience where it's personalized to this person in a hospital room. So maybe someone's in prison. Prison ministry is like, this is really great. I know you want to connect to your kids on their birthday today, but that's physically impossible because that doesn't work. But then later your team comes in with the ministry after learning the stuff that I've created. You can actually put a headset on a prison inmate where they actually can put a headset on and see, a surprise birthday party from their 2 kids and maybe his ex-wife, and just a loving message of encouragement and hope. And obviously law enforcement would have to approve it, which makes sense. These are all possibilities, but just letting that prisoner know that, hey, he's still loved by his kids, and sharing this with his kids, maybe that pattern of the prison thing doesn't have to move through the generations. So we have these new tools do amazing good, and it really starts with the personalized experiences, and you can do just amazing things with that. And second of all, you can do community experiences. And this is fun to even explain it because I call it a menu of hope. A menu of hope is really where a doctor walks into a room and talks to the patient. No, this isn't a joke. A doctor walks into a room and talks to a patient and says, where would you like to go? And the patient says, that's really cruel, doctor. I'm stuck in this room here. Like, well, no, you're not. Your physical body is, but the whole community has come together and created a menu of hope for you, which we're actually doing now in San Diego, where there's going to be 100, 200 videos where this patient can actually go to somewhere in their community to pray. They can go to a mountaintop. They can watch the 4th of July fireworks. There'll be church services or synagogue services and just other things like that. And there'll be a lot of message of encouragement, maybe from coaches. Maybe the mayor who's up for re-election wants to make a video during that time, which is certainly a possibility. But it's amazing. We can create these opportunities now for patients, and we get to re-examine like what is the possibilities of a missionary trip. So we can put headsets on 12-year-old little girls in Uganda for the first time, and in their own language, they can learn math for the first time. They can come back and hear a Bible study. So actually, someone in Uganda can put a headset on and join a Bible study with a team of people in Ohio. So, for example, we can do just amazing things. And for me, I cry a lot when I talk about hospice. Obviously, when you have someone in your life that's passed away, it's an emotional thing forever. And I hope I don't lose that. But for me, it's exciting to put headsets on people in other countries so we can really work on education. So for you that are listening, like, hey, we really need our education changed. It's kind of broken. And the good news is we're working on it. So we're going to create a lot of content and courses and things in education that will really fundamentally change, like what is education? And this whole idea of K through 12 and going to college isn't working because we now have quantum computers and AI on the way. So we need to change. And it's fun being a leader in that space. So we can really help people like hospital patients, hospice patients, even bringing headsets on missionary trips, prison as another great example. Homelessness is a project I'm working on first. Excuse me. So we're going to build a safe station in a hospital and a homeless shelter where the homeless can put a headset on and just know that, hey, there's 15 messages from pastors in here to them that, hey, you're not alone. We love you. I know you fell through the cracks. I heard your story, and here's a message that, hey, we love you. Don't give up hope. And we're going to create all this content for you to join our churches virtually while you're in a safe place in this homeless shelter. So we get to radically rethink what is a hospital experience, what is a homeless experience, and we just get to do just things we didn't think we could do before. And now we have these new tools. So it's really amazing. So to get back on track a little bit, there's 6 steps to create these. The first ones are the recipients. And then there's the theme, and then there's the people in the videos and the experiences. And then the environment is important because you can bring somebody back to the past. You can bring somebody maybe with early onset Alzheimer's. You can bring them back to a Christmas theme. Maybe it looks like we're the home where they used to grow up. Maybe there's piano in the background. There's maybe an inhaler that reminds them of Christmases a long time ago. Maybe that could be like vanilla, chocolate chip cookies, whatever that is like. And then have neuroscientists and mental health professionals work on the opportunities to maybe work with people that have, that lost their way mentally. So we have all these new, just amazing tools. And so we have these 6 steps. So again, we can work through step 4, which is the leveraging of time. So we can go back in time, or we can stay in the present day. We can bring somebody who's homeless to a local church, or we can find somebody who is in recovery. The recovery ministry can put a headset on somebody at church, and they can actually see their own 5-year sobriety party in the future. Somebody grabbed a 360 camera, they recorded a message, like a fake message from the future, and everybody's celebrating them. Hey, you made it. We love you. I know it was tough, but you did it. Here's your 5. Here's your coin. And then this person in recovery can watch this experience, tens of thousands of times to really build the neural network of the fact that he or she can actually get this done. So the environment is really important. Step 5 is the experience. You can actually, create these experiences real easy with a camera. It's super simple, no different than your phone. It just takes a little bit of practice. And the last part is the delivery. And this is really important in ministry work, is you want to make sure you do it correctly. So you want to make sure, first of all, you get all the proper permissions from the doctors, mental health clinicians, and maybe the caretakers. Like maybe they can't see shiny objects or like flashy lights. Maybe they're taking nausea medicine. So anything that bounces a lot, they might throw up. Or maybe they're laying in bed and the video has to be done with everybody bunched up so they can see it, on the ceiling through the headset. And so it's really important to really create just a safe delivery mechanism. So when you put the headset on someone, it's safe. So there's, again, just 6 steps to create all these experiences. It's really understanding who the recipients are, understanding the theme of why you're doing this. The participants are the people in the video. The 4th one is the environment. And the environment is bringing somebody back to the past, into the present day, or even into a future experience. And then the 6th one is really delivering these in a safe way. And that's really important, especially in a professional environment. You should do it in a way that respects the doctors and the patients. But all that now is possible when you understand these 6 steps. It's no different than a phone or doing something super simple. It's actually fairly easy. And then the second part of the VR ministry, is what I call a VR station. And this is a safe place that your ministry team can build in a homeless business. Maybe there's a local county building where a lot of homeless go to stay. And actually the county approves you to go in and build maybe 3 or 4 rooms. And there's 3 different types of stations. The first one is what I call a static station. A static station is where it's going to be safe. It's monitored. Maybe there's padding, and somebody can actually help. For example, the prison inmate, make sure they don't fall over, make sure that they're safe. They can always take the headset off if it's too emotional. Maybe seeing their ex-wife is something they don't want to see, or maybe it's too emotional. Maybe it's too good, and someone can be there just to, hey, it's safe for you. And then, so just amazing. And then the second type is what I call a mobile room. You can actually grab a bunch of headsets and go into a community and actually, and maybe bring this to a hospice place where there's 6 rooms on a hospice home in your community, and you can deliver these experiences to maybe some hospice people in your room. And then the last part, the third part, is the theme part. And this is where I usually cry. But just imagine a hospice in Minnesota where a little guy who's passing away can actually go into a room where there's 12 inches of sand, and the walls are painted in 3D, and the ceiling and floors are as well. And then the little guy sits in the sand. I'm not gonna cry. But he sits his butt in the sand, and he puts his hands in there, and he feels like he's in the sand. His mom sits there next to him, and the doctor comes in and puts a headset on the little guy, and just instantly he's going surfing with a surf club here in sunny San Diego. And his physical body is in Minnesota, but his mind and his heart is like, wow, I'm surfing the waves with this famous surfer. And it's fun to actually be able to create that now. So it's super fulfilling. And really the last part is the cool part is if there's a church that really is growing, they don't have to spend $20 million on a new building. they can actually keep what they have in their current building and just create a new virtual church campus where it's going to replicate everything they do in the real world, but now they can create conferences, a whole bunch of different types of things. And when you do that, you can go into two places. One is like a real reality. So it's maybe a hospice. Let's just look at a hospital patient can put a headset on and they can enter a virtual reality experience as their avatar, which is like their digital copy. They go into a virtual room of the church. It's an actual video or photo of the church. And then their friends and family can join maybe this prayer room as their avatars, and they can talk together maybe from a local church. But it does have a lot of limitations, but it does work. The second type is actually a virtual reality world where you can create a virtual reality Christmas theme, maybe for a senior in a senior living home. And they can enter this campus, enter a hospital room, and then all of a sudden family members and loved ones start entering this room and they can talk together and be together during a Christmas example. And what an amazing time, especially like we learned in COVID. I think of hospital patients when nobody was there to hold their hand. You know, they said, you can't be in there, and the rooms are all white and it's cold and they have COVID maybe. And it's everything's cold. The nurses come in, they're scared of them. I don't want to touch anybody. And here's your pills. And it was a hard time for everybody. But in terms of a patient experience, it's just impossible for just really someone to be in that experience. I mean, can you imagine that? And I've heard a lot of stories of patients that were just, in so much emotional pain, like, where's God in all of this? Maybe God doesn't like me. Nobody really liked me anyways. And these poor people are going into surgery or they're getting treatment. It's just a blessing now is we can learn the lessons of COVID. And now over the next few months, we get to bring headsets so that never happens again. So no one will ever feel alone in a hospital room again, especially, I'm almost going to cry now. When you do have someone that you love in a hospital room and they can't do that. So I don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. We go into a hospital room and we're all trapped. But imagine putting a headset on somebody and then they go to a space where they're like, you know what? People do love me. I'm loved. I feel really connected to my brother right now. We haven't talked in a year, but wow, we're connected right now. So there it is, crying a little bit. So it's fun now to be able to go and as we close things up, we can navigate this new world together by using our new tools to really make sure that we use these for good and really move humanity forward. And it's fun for me being the speaker now of an amazing group here as you get to hear this message, but I also get to actually launch projects now. So we have projects actually going into the world now for homelessness. We have our first projects starting in June. I'll be looking at some senior living businesses coming up here next month. And it's just amazing how fast your world is going to change. If there's something inside of you that says, you know what, there's something coming. What is that? You're right. There's something coming and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely the most beautiful thing some people have ever seen. And a lot of it will be virtual reality. Augmented reality will be the big winner. But even for someone like me, offering a homeless person or even a senior who feels isolated in their senior living home, they're going to have a robot, a personal assistant to help navigate them through life. They're going to be able to talk to it, and we're going to be able to do things with robots in ways that we didn't have available to us before. And for me, it's fun. We couldn't have really started this new era without COVID because we all feel comfortable in our past. It's like a warm blanket of like, that's what I learned in college. I feel comfortable there. I have power there. And hey, I even have a little ego here in this little thing that I have at my job. But the answer now is that a lot of that's going away. We have all these new tools that are coming super fast. I call it hyper innovation. So we're going to have new products. They used to have a 5-year business cycle. Now they're going to have 6 to 12-month business cycles. We're just have so much innovation, so much change. And if you're a hospital, hospice or senior living or your business, or for me, I get to work with local governments as well. If you're not embracing innovation and change at a rapid pace, you're going to get left behind in the wake of all of this. So really my job here and the time that I had with you is just to paint a picture of what's possible now. And we're actually moving into this world. And if you like VR or not, really the story I like to give is the fact that, none of this happened for me for 4.5 years. And it's been, just super amazing to get this here. So if you're writing your book and your process, don't quit. My whole world is opening up, and it took me 4 years to get here. So it's just going through this experience now. So thank you, everybody. I hope you learned something today. And I'm excited to answer any questions. I know we have a couple of minutes left. And hey, Ruby.
Hi, Todd. I'm not going to cry this time. I did that yesterday.
So I almost did like twice.
Yeah. No, I'm almost doing it now, but I promise I won't. So and this is the part for me that is the most incredible chat. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry that I put it on the stage chat just a moment ago. Is being able to literally share love through technology for people who otherwise wouldn't be able to feel it.
Right.
Just thinking about, and I don't want to make this about anything and, anyone in particular, because we've all lost people. Right. Last year, we all lost somebody. Right. But there's something very important about being able to share that moment to tell them, I love you. Right. I'm so sorry. This is really unprofessional, but I just, your mission really touched me, because to me, that ability to share the love is something that I know that I will never get back. That's a time where we all should have been together, and for all of the reasons we understand, but we weren't able to. And I just honestly, that to me is the part that I hold on to, and I'm like, because of you and people like you who are working in this field, very soon that will not be a reality for anyone. And I think it's so interesting, because prior to COVID, I don't think we really thought about that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, your loved one is in pain and your loved one is passing on, and I'm here. Of course I'm here. Where else would I be?
Right.
But last year, goodness, it just, those things that at times we take for granted, like being able to be with each other and for each other in those incredibly difficult moments. Sorry, that was a question. I just kind of said everything that was on my heart, but I guess I just wanted to share that, because honestly, it's just so special and so needed.
Well, I do have a question about the technology, because I'm a geek at heart.
Cool.
I would love to know. So what is it? Is it the Oculus? Is it the Google Glass? I mean, what is the hardware that you're using to make this happen?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. I was crying a little bit there. This is great.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's great to live your passion. And I know, we're in the book series. It's just like, I know a lot of people that are listening to this are struggling with their book and they want to quit. Don't quit, endure it, because sometimes it's not about other people. It's about you. You got to work through your stuff to get to here. So I can talk about my stuff, and like you just did, and like courageous way. But to answer your question, Tom, a lot of it's really simple. There's two parts to this equation. The first one is what they call a 360 camera. They start at you can buy a good used one. Samsung has some good used ones for maybe $100, $150 on Amazon. The good ones, I use GoPro Max. That's what our team uses. With all the accessories, it's like $500.
No, that's not bad.
It captures like 180 degrees, and then captures the other side of the 180 degrees, and then it like stitches them together.
Wow,
which is cool. So it's a different experience. So when you take like that camera and you put it on a tripod, so maybe your cousin's in prison, and he remembers the time that he spent at the Christmas tree when he was a kid. I'm going to try to hold it together here, Ruby.
Yeah. Well, how did you know my cousin was in prison? No, I'm just kidding. Humor is my defense mechanism. Otherwise, I'll be in tears too. So
yeah. So it's amazing that inmate gets to put a headset on as long as law enforcement approves it and all that stuff, right? It's just a possibility now. But the idea that inmate can actually go to the Christmas tree where they grew up.
Right.
And I don't know what's possible out of that. But the idea of maybe he'll be a better inmate because he wants to see his kid's birthday party in 3 months. Maybe he'll be like an exceptional inmate. It's like, oh my God.
So do the receivers, the people, do they wear the goggles or?
Yeah, nope. So I wanted to paint a picture of like a Christmas tree. Yep. So to answer that question is to go back is you take a 360 camera and you put it on a tripod.
Right.
And you put it on the floor and you raise it to eye level if somebody was sitting there. So the person actually that is going to view it, the first part, the recipient,
right,
is going to put that headset on, and they know the experience is for them.
Got it. Okay.
Instantly, and then they're going to go into the experience from the point of view of where the camera is.
Cool.
So they're going to look around and they're going to go, hey, I feel like I'm sitting by the Christmas tree. And maybe somebody says a message or says a prayer or something. Right. So it actually, the psychologists call it presence or body illusionment theory. So you're actually technically, you feel like you're somewhere else. And
so you can deliver communion, things like that. So people having, putting themselves at risk to go and share communion, they can do it virtually. Cool.
Right. And that's part of my upcoming my upcoming ministry is the idea of creating a VR ministry organization, because there's a lot of ethical questions around this. People are just bulldozing into space and are like, what is a VR altar call? Like, I don't know. I mean, is that good or bad? And people are just bulldozing it. And your average pastor is like, we didn't do that in 1950, Todd. I'm like, I know, but my job is to get them in the conversation and figure out what's good, what's bad, because no one's talking about it. Trust me, I wrote one of the first books on VR prayers, and your average Christian pastor wants to go back to the past and do church the way we did 30 years ago. And there's nothing wrong with that. I hope that stays. It's just we have all these new tools in Asia and Europe. They're just bulldozing this stuff, and they're kind of redefining what is church. So my job is to get people like you in the conversation where we can raise our hand and go, what is good? What is bad? How does this work for Jewish community? Like, nobody knows. But and for me, my biggest fear is, since I have a good idea, think of what's coming. We're going to run a world where like 100 people run the show, but everybody's they're checked out. They're stuck in their little right-left argument. It's just the whole world is bulldozing, and we're just going to wake up one day and like, wow.
And everything will have been
the world's
different.
Changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. There's robots in senior living. Like, how did that happen? It's been coming for so long. And
hey, well, look at the Jetsons,
I know.
Right.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Still no flying cars.
I
want actually, there are flying cars.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's part of all my workshops is to kind of scare people a little bit in a nice way. But like, I don't know. They're like, your average American is just sleeping right now. And I don't know why that is, but the whole world has changed. We're moving into something huge. So we have flying cars in America in 2023. England's already building flying car airports.
Cool.
So let me actually jump in with another question, kind of going based on that, because you did mention that there, I don't want to say resistance, but maybe a little hesitancy with moving the church in this particular direction. Right. Like you mentioned, people want to go backwards instead of forwards. What is the area that you've presented this technology to where people have embraced it the most?
Good question. Yeah. What I'm finding, that's a good question. I'll answer it this way. When I talk to a lot of people, I think I'm well over like 10,000 people, well over that. It's fun having these conversations.
Right.
And when I present it, there's two types of people that really want to see change in the world. And there's people that look at it and go, oh, this is really great. How much power can I get out of it? So it's a threat to them, or it's, I don't understand it, so they'll work against it. So it's not fun having a hospital. I just want a hospital patient to feel loved. And it's fun, the resistance, like, what? This isn't that hard to figure that out. Yeah. I can teach you to do it in 5 minutes. So it's really like a personality profile, like a psychology thing. And like who they are, if they're very narcissistic and dominant, they have a hard time because they're not in this equation. They're not the star of it. And so people that have a big heart
to them, right?
Yeah. So it's like if I find a pastor and they're like, hey, we can really use this to help people, and they light up like, look at all this stuff we can do now. But that's not very many of them, and I don't know why that is.
Well, televangelists, I can see this. I mean, how fabulous would that be? The televangelists, they've been on TV for years, and people have been remote. Well, what if you could remote in and be there in 3D?
Right.
And experience it.
Yeah,
right?
And really
experience it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, in psychology, they call it the point when you put the headset on and you leave your reality and go into another reality. It's actually names for that. But for me, it's emotional as you deliver it to a hospital patient. And we're just starting to do this now. But like even a homeless person, you're in there and they're having the worst day of their life. They come in through this processing through the facility and somebody says, they're okay, Todd. And then we bring them into a VR station, and somebody safely puts a headset on them, and they're like, wow, I just heard 3 messages from pastors. Like, wow, I have all this hope all of a sudden. And then they rip the headset off, and they go back to the real reality of being in the homeless facility. It's really hard because they want to go back into the virtual reality world. So that's how real this is. It's just so real and encompassing, and it's here now. So like buckle up. And,
we're coming up on the end of our time. I don't want us to get cut off. So let's wrap it up here. Where can people go if they would like to support your mission?
Thank you. You can find me at Facebook. Just go to facebook.com, then the / and do VR for Main Street.
What's that? New VR for Main.
I will put my notes in there. Can they see my notes in the stage? So you see how you're in backstage right now? If you tab one over to see, that's where you want to put it, because that's where everyone will be able to see it. Oh, it says I shouldn't. It says I'm going to leave the backstage.
Okay, so VR for Main Street.
Yep, .com.
Main Street, I thought.
VR for Main Street.com. VR for mainstreet.com is my website.
Okay.
VR, Victor Romeo, and then spelled out FOR, mainstreet.com. So my job is to bring virtual reality to Main Street and to do it in a way that really doesn't scare people too much. But it's your world is changing. Yeah. And if we have all these new tools, it's up to us to do it for good. And that's really my mission, is to bring people like you in the conversation and have those connections in hospitals that you get to say things that you haven't before. And just, it's here now. And it took COVID out of the worst thing in 100 years, brings in the best things in 500 years.
Well, Todd, I really don't want us to get cut off. I want to thank you so very much again for coming
Todd.
on.
This is amazing. Thank you.
Truly, truly amazing. I cannot wait to see how far this technology goes. Thank you so much again for sharing this with us.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great day.